That's north from here.
Hey, Dystopian fans! We have another Tactica video that I thought I would share with you guys, and today's topic is going to be the Combat Air Patrol, otherwise known as CAP. So, in a nutshell, what CAP is attaching tiny flyers to either a large or massive vessel. This is primarily done as a defensive tactic, and we're going to examine whether or not it's effective and what situations would you use it in. Okay, so let's just go over scenario one real quick. No, before I go into scenario one, let's touch up on the general basis or the general practice behind CAP. So, by capping this battleship with these 4 torpedo bombers, I've effectively made them one squad, and there's some positives and negatives to that. The positive is that it's meant for protection. It's meant to help your battleship stay alive longer. Negatives is that you're taking away an activation, and this is a game of activations. So the more activations usually works out in your favor. There's some other negatives and positives, but we'll get into that as the scenarios unfold. So we got a pretty straight up scenario here. We've got 4 of these frigates about to unleash holy hell on this battleship. Now, normally these frigates they're using gunnery attacks for this, and they're going to link up. And so normally the battleship is just going to have to sit there and take it and hope that the frigates roll bad. However, in a cap situation, you do get a response. So let's play this out. So normally what happens is I activate my player 1 over here, player with the frigates, activates his squad. He moves them, and he gets them all within range band 1. Then he declares his attack. I'm going to link up. That's a lot of dice. Most likely, you're going to crit that battleship. You might even double crit it, or even triple crit it with the exploding dice mechanic at work here. In response, the tiny flyers, because they have a torpedo range of range band 1, can respond to this attack. So the attack is declared. The battleship declares its response. By doing so, each tiny token is going to waste a fuel counter, which is one negative about this scenario is that, okay, so you're being attacked, now you're wasting fuel, and your payload is 1 shot, 3 shots per tiny fuel token, which means after this exchange happens, you're going to have to reload and refuel, which usually takes, under the best circumstances, 2 turns. So that's something to consider when doing this. So this is going to be the attack dice of the frigates, and I'm declaring, just for simplicity's sake, 1 torpedo bomber on each frigate. So this is resolved simultaneously. So it does help you out in the fact that you're not just sitting there and taking it. You're actually making him think about it, an attack, to see if it's worth it, and hopefully making him pay. But let's play it out. Okay, so frigate's got a couple of 6s here. Ooh, that's bad news for the battleship. right? I think that was not a 6. I'm just gonna say that wasn't. Whatever, it's an exercise, right? So we got 8 hits. There's 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, and we get 4 rerolls. Man, I wish I could roll this good. So wait, that was 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I got 19 hits. Wow, keep going. 20, 22, 23 hits. Ouch. Okay, so that battleship was double critted. Okay, the torpedo bombers fired, and look at that. There's already, that's a dead ship, and that's a dead ship. I'm not even going to bother with the re-rolling the 6s here. I'm really rolling really good. Look at that. Dead ship there. And nothing on that last one. So I took out 3. He double crits my battleship. And so we have almost like a full metal alchemist thing going, equivalent exchange. Okay, so he just lost 3 frigates and double critted the battleship. I can roll damage real quick. You know, battleship's going to be down by 4 hit points, which is pretty major. And you know, we'd have to look up the damage here. I think this is hard pounding, so you're going to lose some AP on top of that. I forgot what 8 is off the top of my head, but in this type of scenario, overall, it's pretty much a wash. Okay. Not only now your torpedo bombers have to reload, your battleship's still wounded. True, this guy's going to have to make a leadership check, and you might just break him, which he didn't at this point. You can respond and take out his squadron. So, pretty much a wash. I did roll pretty hot on those dice, so that's a little unorthodox. Let's take a look at scenario. So here we are, scenario 2. We're going to have to do some little bit of make-believe here because this scenario is going to be against, well, it's supposed to be long-range rockets versus, a vulnerable battleship. So we're going to have to pretend that that's some kind of Empire of the Blazing Sun or FSA vessel declaring its rocket attacks. So, in essence, let's say the strength of rockets is that you get more attack dice from far away. So in the early stages of the game, battleships or anything with rockets are more effective because your two forces are still meeting each other. So in this instance, the cap becomes extremely useful because as the rockets come flying in, not only do I get defensive anti-aircraft or ACAC from the battleship, but I can also use my tiny flyers ACAC to shoot those rockets down. So this one's a little bit more straightforward, and this is what I tend to favor caps in those type of situations. So if I'm playing a long-range faction, a faction with rockets like FSA or Empire of the Blazing Suns, then these caps definitely help your battleship from being wounded, which should be the intent, because as your ships get wounded in this game, their effectiveness goes down. Normally, there are exceptions. So what does this mean? So let's say my battleship is wounded 3 times. It has three hull points of damage. That means I have to subtract 3 from my gunnery attacks, my Tesla attacks, my concussion charges, and my ACAC. So if this thing's firing rockets at me and I have 3 wounds, I'm minusing 3 from my ACAC. Thank God I've got these tiny flyers here to support. Now the important thing to remember is that you're not allowed to link the protected vessel with the cap, but the tiny flyers can link amongst themselves, and they link at full attack dice, which is very effective. So in scenario 2, this is a lot more, like I said, cut and dry. You want to do this tactic to save your ships. So those are just 2 basic scenarios. I'm just going to try to make this quick. I know I'm already rambling, but there's a lot of things to consider when you're doing a cap. Most importantly, what are you capping your ship with? There are 4 types of tiny flyers. I mean, you've got torpedo bombers, dive bombers, you've got fighter planes, and recon. So the quick and dirty answer is it depends on who you're playing and what you're up against, on what you want to cap your ship with, if you're going to cap it all. I tend to go with the torpedo bombers. 1, because they have that range band 1 range, and they have ACAC that, although it's just 1 ACAC per plane, it helps. If I am capping a different type of model, let's say I cap my Sky Fortress, I might want to use fighter bombs. Why? Fighter bombers, if I start off this thing in obscured status, at the very beginning, it's moving very slow. And so people are going to hit it with the long range rockets. Fighter bombers are getting 2 ACAC each. If I obscure this Sky Fortress, not only do they need 6s to hit me with the rockets, I will also get ACAC from the Sky Fortress itself, and I can use ACAC from the fighter planes to knock them down. So it becomes very effective. I would say, as a general rule, I would not use cap with dive bombers, because dive bombers, in order to use their AD, would have to be in base contact. And so who's actually going to voluntarily move into base contact with your combat air patrol? Not a lot of people are going to do that. So just real quickly, let's go over a couple of pluses and minuses that I see with cap. So the big plus is defense against long-range rockets. Another pro would be the ability to do damage to models that are attacking your vessel out of sequence, because you're allowed to resolve the attacks at the same time. You're not wasting an activation. So what are the downsides to cap? Well, you can only cap with tiny fighters. So tiny fighters have to keep track of fuel. Okay? And so every time they defend, they're wasting fuel. Okay? And like in scenario number 1, not only did I waste fuel, but I also wasted my salvo. Okay? So now I got to refuel after taking out the frigates. Another minus to that is that you're taking away a couple of really cool abilities on the tiny flyers. Number one, they move really fast. I mean, fighter planes can move, 16 inches. In certain factions, they move even faster. They don't have to stay in command distance, normally. If they were a squad by themselves, you can split them off. And they can go out and do their thing. Normally, in games that I've played, you only get the one salvo with your torpedoes or your bombs. And then you spend the rest of the time trying to land on the carrier or fly off the table so you can reload. By then, the game's over. Here's a big problem with that, with caps, okay? Let's say we have this type of scenario. So here I have, we'll even call these torpedo bombers, okay? So I have this ship here, battleship. It's going to attack in range band 2 outside of the range of your cap because it can only attack in range band 2 against that flyer. I can't attack in range band 1 because of the rules. So they do nothing. They just sit there and watch your ship burst into flames because I'm using gunnery attacks. Now let's say this was a surface model, not a flyer, and this was a surface model. And so we're going at it in range band 1. Okay? What this model can do is take its offensive ACAC to take out your cap. So let's say, it gets like 8 dice. So during its, now again, for the purposes of the demonstration, we're talking about surface model to surface model combat, not surface model to air combat, but like I said, I only have one faction, so whatever. Now we've got a problem. These guys are going to get ACAC'd. Let's say that's the case. And, get shot down or lose fuel or something like that. It tends to complicate the game. Like Overwatch complicated 40K in 2nd edition. Because you have all this stuff happening out of sequence. All this stuff has to be declared by both players and allocated and everything like that. Does that mean it's a disadvantage? No, it doesn't mean it's a disadvantage. It just means that it does slow down the game, and you kind of have to look at the activation sequence to see what is actually resolved first. And there's if you look at the quick play sheet, there's it goes from A to D just on ACAC. So I'm not, actually, if this ship was to fire, its ACAC and declare its attack, I've almost got a conflicting rule here because what am I going to resolve first? Do I resolve the ACAC or the AD? Normally you resolve the ACAC first. So if I'm resolving the ACAC first, then the ACAC from this ship would supersede their attack dice because I'm not resolving my gunnery attacks. That's resolved simultaneously. So I could actually wound or make these things abort so they can't attack. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys on whether or not this is a good tactic. I see one, possibly two scenarios where combat air patrol is advantageous. The other ones, I don't really see it helping out much. I think you're losing an activation, honestly, and you're taking away the movement of these planes because they have to stay within 4 inches of the the mother vessel. So that's just me, and this video has gone way too long, but I think it should be discussed in the comments section. So tell me what you guys think, and thanks for watching. Okay, see you on the next tactic video, or I shouldn't even call them tactic videos. I should just call them discussion videos, because I'm not taking a side. I'm really just leaning on using caps as a defensive measure against long-range rockets. That's my opinion. If you disagree, or if you agree, write it in the comments, okay? See you on the next one.